Something deep inside America is starting to crack. It isn't explosive or obvious. It happens quietly, out of sight, tucked behind polite smiles, credit card balances, and bills that never seem to stop piling up. The middle class, once held up as the backbone and promise of the country, is now struggling just to breathe, trapped inside a system fueled by debt, burnout, and constant pressure to keep going. Families who once planned for homes, savings, and long-term security are now redefining success as making it through the month, putting food on the table, or managing to send rent before the deadline. This isn't a temporary downturn or a bad economic cycle. It's something deeper. It's a slow unraveling. The American dream didn't disappear in a single moment. It's being taken apart piece by piece, eroded by every missed paycheck, every unexpected medical expense, and every restless night spent wondering how much longer this can last. Number 1. Housing and homeownership. What was once the clearest symbol of the American dream has quietly transformed into a source of stress and heartbreak for millions of middle-class families. Owning a home, something previous generations worked toward with confidence, now feels out of reach. Or worse, like a financial trap. The numbers tell a harsh story. The median home price in the United States has climbed beyond $420,000, while the average household income lingers near $74,000. That gap isn't just discouraging. It makes buying a home nearly impossible on paper, even before factoring in real-life expenses. In places like Austin and Denver, simple 3-bedroom houses regularly sell for $500,000 or more. Add mortgage rates hovering around 7.5%, and monthly payments have nearly doubled compared to just a few years ago. For many families, the math no longer works. As a result, the dream of homeownership is slipping away from the very people who built this country: teachers, nurses, factory workers, office staff. Nearly 1 in 3 Americans now spends more than 30% of their income just to stay housed. And for some, it's even worse. Families are being forced to make impossible choices: pay the mortgage or buy groceries, keep the lights on or cover medical bills. Some have been pushed out entirely, living in cars or renting spare rooms from strangers, casualties of an economy that treats shelter like a privilege instead of a basic need. A house that sold for $150,000 in 1995 now costs nearly 3 times that amount, yet wages have barely budged. This isn't about people working less. Americans didn't stop trying. The system simply stopped paying off. A home used to stand for stability, pride, and a future you could count on. Today, it often feels like proof that the middle class is being priced out of its own life. The white picket fence didn't disappear. It was auctioned off to whoever could afford to outbid everyone else. Number 2. Healthcare and insurance costs. For the middle class, the healthcare system no longer feels like protection. It feels like a financial snare. What should exist to keep people well has instead become one of the fastest ways to fall behind. The average American family now spends more than $7,400 every year just on insurance premiums, and that's only the entry fee. Copays, prescriptions, and deductibles come on top of that, often pushing the real cost far higher. A routine doctor's appointment can run $150, while annual deductibles for even basic plans regularly climb past $4,000. As a result, people with steady jobs and employer coverage are still postponing checkups, stretching medications, and hoping small problems don't turn into emergencies. Staying healthy has become something many simply can't afford. Medical debt is now a driving force behind financial collapse. More than 60% of bankruptcies in the U.S. are linked to healthcare costs. These aren't reckless spenders or irresponsible choices. They're everyday workers who got sick once, or parents whose child needed specialized treatment. The system doesn't encourage prevention. It actively penalizes it. Families are pushed into impossible decisions: pay the insurance premium or cover the rent, buy insulin or buy groceries. Healthcare in America is no longer about healing. It's about surviving paperwork, denials, and an endless stream of bills. At the same time, private insurance companies post record profits, and their executives take home $15 to $25 million a year. The people funding that wealth are rationing medication just to make it through the month. And even in a country that spends roughly $4.5 trillion annually on healthcare, The middle class is still drowning in debt and routinely denied non-essential care that could prevent serious illness or save lives. Healthcare in America has stopped being a system of care. It has become an extraction machine. For millions of people, getting sick is no longer the worst-case scenario. Getting treated is. And behind every hospital bill sits a quiet realization. The system meant to protect them is slowly draining them instead. The middle class isn't just losing access to care, it's losing trust. In a country where staying well has become a privilege, not a guarantee. Number 3. College tuition and the burden of lifelong debt. Education used to be the clear path forward, a promise that hard work in the classroom would lead to a better life. Today, that promise feels broken. For many, a college degree has become less of a ladder and more of a weight dragging an entire generation down. The cost alone tells the story. Attending a 4-year public university now averages nearly $28,000 per year, while private colleges routinely charge more than $55,000 annually. For most families, those numbers aren't just intimidating, they're unmanageable. As a result, more than 45 million Americans are carrying student loans, with total debt reaching roughly $1.7 trillion. Parents who once celebrated acceptance letters now stare at loan documents, taking out second mortgages or draining retirement savings just to keep up with tuition bills. For middle-class households earning between $60,000 and $100,000 a year, college is no longer a rite of passage. It's a financial risk with long-term consequences. A degree that once promised stability now arrives with decades of payments attached, like rent charged for knowledge itself. Graduates often step into the workforce already underwater, owing more than they earn in their first year. It's common for a 22-year-old with a diploma to face $35,000 in student loans, with interest rates that rival credit cards. It's no wonder so many postpone buying homes, starting families, or building any real sense of security. The idea of education as an investment has buckled under soaring tuition and unchecked corporate influence. What was supposed to unlock opportunity now traps millions in quiet anxiety and long-term stress. America once told its children that education meant freedom. Today, it's become one of the most expensive forms of debt a person can carry. And the middle class shoulders it, with strained smiles, automatic payments, and the constant hope that someday it will finally pay off. Number 4. Retirement savings and the collapse of pension security. For generations, the message was straightforward. Put in the years, save what you can, and retirement would be a time of rest and stability. That promise, once taken for granted, has quietly fallen apart. Today, nearly 40% of middle-class Americans have less than $5,000 set aside for retirement. Even those who manage to save something are confronting an uncomfortable truth. It won't be enough. Experts estimate that a comfortable retirement now requires roughly $55,000 per year, yet the median balance in retirement accounts sits at just $88,000. Pensions, once the backbone of retirement security, are rapidly disappearing. In their place, companies have shifted workers into 401k plans that place nearly all the risk on individual employees. With inflation steadily eroding savings and market swings shrinking investments, many people are realizing, far too late, that their nest egg isn't as solid as they believed. For those relying on Social Security, the picture is even bleaker. The average monthly benefit is just under $2,000, barely enough to cover housing, medications, and food in most parts of the country. As a result, many retirees are returning to work well into their 70s, not for fulfillment or purpose, but simply to stay afloat. Seeing elderly workers stocking shelves, bagging groceries, or delivering packages has become commonplace. It's no longer surprising. It's become the unofficial retirement plan. The middle class was told to prepare for a future that keeps drifting farther out of reach. The bitter irony is hard to ignore. They helped create the wealth of this nation, yet can't afford to grow old within it. Retirement was once the reward at the end of a long career. Today, it feels more like a finish line most people will never cross. Number 5. Family vacations and time away. Family trips were once a cherished pause from everyday life. A few days by the ocean, a road trip through the mountains, or simply visiting relatives without stressing over fuel costs or credit card balances. That kind of break now feels like a distant memory for many middle-class families. A single week away now costs the average American household close to $4,800, more than a full month's rent for countless people. Flights that once ran around $250 are now commonly priced between $450 and $600. Hotel rooms average nearly $190 per night, and even grabbing fast food for a family of four can easily top $50. What used to be a planned expense has turned into an impossible luxury. The middle class, once able to save and budget for rest, now talks about vacations as if they're unrealistic dreams. Nearly 64% of Americans say they can't afford to take time off, not because they don't have vacation days, but because missing a week's paycheck could mean falling behind. Inflation didn't just make things more expensive, it took away rest itself. Even short, local trips are hard to justify when gas hovers around $3.80 a gallon and car rentals push past $90 a day. Getting away no longer feels simple or spontaneous. It feels risky. What's most heartbreaking is how quietly this loss has happened. Families convince themselves a backyard barbecue is a staycation. Kids ask why there's no trip to Disney this year. Parents answer with forced smiles and unspoken guilt. The middle class helped build the highways, hotels, and theme parks that now sit financially out of reach. Rising costs have transformed joy into a luxury item. Vacations were never just about travel. They were about creating memories, catching your breath, and feeling hopeful. For millions of families now, that sense of escape fits into a lunch break, not a suitcase. Number 6. Childcare and early education. For many families today, childcare has quietly become the second mortgage, sometimes even the first. What was once viewed as support for working parents has turned into one of the biggest financial pressures in the middle-class budget. The average cost of daycare in the United States now exceeds $11,500 per child each year, a figure that's higher than in-state college tuition in many states. In cities like New York and San Francisco, annual costs can soar past $20,000, forcing parents into impossible decisions. Do they keep working just to afford childcare, or stay home because care costs more than their paycheck? Middle-class families are being squeezed from every direction. A two-income household earning around $90,000 a year can end up spending 25 to 30% of its income just to cover childcare. For single parents, the burden is even heavier. Nearly half report going into debt simply to remain employed. This system offers no reward for effort or sacrifice. It penalizes parents for working and punishes them for trying to build stability. Preschools, once seen as stepping stones to opportunity, have increasingly become financial traps. Long waiting lists are the norm, and lower-cost options often mean crowded classrooms and caregivers who are stretched thin and underpaid. The damage doesn't stop in early childhood. Children miss out on critical developmental opportunities, while parents lose momentum in their careers. In one of the wealthiest countries in the world, raising a child has become an economic risk. The irony is hard to ignore. America speaks endlessly about family values, yet prices parenthood like an exclusive luxury. The middle class isn't just running low on money, it's running out of time, energy, and choices. When working parents sit quietly through lunch breaks, fighting back tears, it isn't a sign of weakness. It's the sound of an entire generation trying to survive in a system that no longer takes care of its children. Number 7. Owning a dependable vehicle. Not long ago, buying a new car represented progress, a fresh chapter, independence, and a sense of stability. Today, that same purchase feels like standing at the edge of a financial drop-off. In 2025, the average price of a new car has climbed beyond $48,000, while used vehicles now average around $27,000. Both are historic highs. Financing a car at today's interest rates often means monthly payments between $700 and $900, numbers that used to be associated with home loans, not transportation. For middle-class families already stretched thin by rent, healthcare, and existing debt, these costs are pushing reliable transportation out of reach. Household incomes simply haven't kept up. While wages have increased by roughly 4%, vehicle prices have jumped more than 30% since 2020. Even basic upkeep has become a strain. Oil changes that once cost $40 now run closer to $75, and replacing a set of tires can easily reach $200. Maintenance alone is enough to throw a budget off balance. As a result, many families are keeping cars far longer than ever before, often 12 to 15 years, hoping they can squeeze out just a few more miles. Roads are now filled with vehicles older than the children riding inside them, their check engine lights glowing like silent warnings of financial stress. Some drivers are forced to delay repairs or drop insurance coverage altogether just to keep moving. The auto industry continues to profit, but the middle class is stuck idling. What once symbolized freedom and the open road now feels like debt on four wheels. When you have to finance your ability to get to work, it's no longer just transportation, it's survival powered by an engine. Number 8. Access to quality groceries and balanced nutrition. For the middle class, the grocery store has turned into a quiet battleground. Prices that were once brushed off as temporary spikes during the pandemic have settled in for good, reshaping how families eat and plan. A weekly grocery trip that used to cost around $120 can now easily push past $200, sometimes without even filling the cart. According to the USDA, a family of 4 now spends roughly $1,125 every month just to cover basic meals. That's a staggering 36% increase since 2020. Everyday staples have climbed sharply. Bread, rice, and meat now come with price tags that feel detached from reality. Ground beef averages about $6.50 a pound, chicken sits near $4.30, and a single loaf of bread can cost close to $3.80. For families earning around $70,000 a year, food is no longer a routine expense. It's a constant budgeting crisis. To cope, many households are making painful compromises. Fresh fruits and vegetables are replaced with cheaper, heavily processed foods. Portions are stretched thinner, meals are skipped altogether. What people eat is no longer guided by nutrition, but by necessity. Food banks and pantries, once considered short-term emergency support, are now serving record numbers of working, middle-class families. Access to healthy food has become a marker of class. Those with money shop organic, while those struggling rely on instant meals and filler foods. Parents quietly carry guilt when children ask for fruit or snacks that simply aren't affordable that week. In a country known for abundance, the middle class isn't being starved of calories. It's being stripped of dignity. Grocery aisles were once symbols of choice and comfort. Today, they reflect economic decline, where every scan at the checkout is a reminder of how far the dollar no longer goes. Number 9. Credit card debt and the cost of staying afloat. The middle class isn't overspending on luxuries. It's running out of room to breathe. As prices rise faster than paychecks, credit cards have stopped being a convenience and started functioning as a last line of defense. The average American household now carries roughly $7,900 in credit card debt, with interest rates climbing past 22%, the highest on record. That balance becomes a trap. Many families are paying $200 a month or more in interest alone, without making a dent in what they actually owe. Everyday necessities are going on plastic. Groceries, rent, medical expenses. Cash simply doesn't stretch far enough to reach the next paycheck. What was once meant to provide temporary relief has turned into financial quicksand. One missed payment is often all it takes. Penalty rates kick in, fees stack up, and suddenly a $1,000 balance balloons into $1,300 in a matter of months. Credit cards used to symbolize ease and flexibility. Now, they reflect quiet desperation. People aren't swiping to indulge, they're swiping to survive. More than 1/3 of American households admit they rely on credit just to cover basic needs. And as balances grow, so does the stress. The consequences seep into everyday life: sleepless nights, constant calls from collectors, and damaged credit scores that shut families out of loans, housing, and opportunity. Debt has quietly replaced poverty as one of America's most widespread but least visible crises. You won't always see it on the streets or in the headlines, but it shows up in every mailbox, every billing statement, every notification marked past due. For the middle class, the American dream isn't being pursued anymore. It's being charged, one swipe at a time. Number 10. Urban rent and the cost of simply staying put. Nowhere is the erosion of the middle class more obvious than in the price of rent. In 2025, the average monthly cost for a modest 2-bedroom apartment in an American city has climbed beyond $2,150. Meanwhile, the median household income has barely crept up to around $74,000. That imbalance forces many middle-class families to spend between 35 and 45% of their income just to keep a roof overhead, well beyond what financial experts consider sustainable. In cities like Los Angeles and New York, the situation is even more extreme. Monthly rents of $3,500 to $4,800 are now common, often for apartments that can barely accommodate a family of four. This isn't a story about luxury living or upscale amenities. It's about survival. Families are squeezing into smaller spaces, sharing apartments, or doubling up with relatives. Adult children are moving back home. Even households with two steady incomes are often just one missed paycheck away from eviction. More than 20 million renters now spend over half their income on housing, the highest number ever recorded in the United States. And landlords are fully aware of it. Rents rise year after year, not always because costs increase, but because the market allows it. The American city, once seen as a gateway to opportunity, has taken on a predatory edge. Teachers, nurses, firefighters, the very people who keep communities running, are being pushed farther and farther out, enduring commutes of 2 hours or more just to afford a place to live. Urban life once promised connection, growth, and possibility. Now it punishes anyone who doesn't earn six figures. There's a quiet humiliation in it. Parents lowering their voices to say, "We might have to move," while their children tape up boxes yet again. The city skyline grows brighter every night, but for millions, those lights feel unreachable. America's urban centers weren't designed for poverty, yet they are steadily forcing out the middle class that built them. The rent crisis isn't just about housing costs. It's the slow eviction of an entire generation from the cities they helped make thrive. Number 11. Private education and extracurricular opportunities. There was a time when middle-class parents could imagine giving their children something extra: a better school, music lessons, a spot on a soccer team, maybe even a summer camp experience. Today, those hopes often collapse the moment the bills arrive. Private school tuition in the U.S. now averages around $12,250 per year, and elite institutions regularly charge more than $25,000. Even public schools, which are technically free, come with a long list of hidden expenses: uniforms, supplies, field trips, activity fees, and after-school programs can quietly add up to more than $3,000 a year. For families earning about $70,000 annually, the numbers simply don't add up. Parents are forced into painful trade-offs: education or groceries, enrichment or basic stability. Fees for advanced placement classes or youth sports registration now feel like luxury purchases. The result is a quiet exclusion. Children are left out of opportunities not because they lack ability or interest, but because of their zip code and their parents' paycheck. Sports programs that once built teamwork and community now require $300 a month club fees. Art and music classes, the heart of creativity, are often the first things cut when budgets tighten. Even academic tutoring can cost between $50 and $100 an hour. Parents who once proudly advocated for their children's potential now sit in uncomfortable silence at PTA meetings, nodding along and pretending they simply forgot to sign up their child. The real loss isn't just missed activities, it's disappearing hope. When childhood itself becomes a privilege, belief in upward mobility starts to fade. The system sends a clear and brutal message: dreams no longer come free. They require a down payment. Number 12. Home repairs and ongoing maintenance. A leaking roof, a broken heater, rust creeping along the carport. These were once inconveniences the middle class could handle with some planning and savings. Today, they've become full-scale financial emergencies. Since 2020, the cost of maintaining a home has surged by roughly 45%, with the average homeowner now spending more than $6,400 each year just to keep things functioning. Major repairs come with staggering price tags. Replacing an HVAC system can cost around $8,000. A new roof often runs $12,000. Even a basic water heater repair can hit $500 without warning. For many middle-class families, fixing their homes simply isn't affordable anymore. Repairs are postponed, walls are patched temporarily, appliances stay broken for months at a time. Across neighborhoods nationwide, houses are quietly deteriorating, not because owners don't care, but because they're worn down financially. Every crack in the drywall tells the same story. Survival mode. On top of repair costs, rising property taxes and insurance premiums continue to chip away at any remaining sense of stability. Home ownership, once a clear marker of success, now feels like a commitment that never stops demanding more. For some families, selling the house feels like the only escape, but even that relief is short-lived, as renting often costs even more. What was once an asset has slowly turned into a liability. The idea of ownership starts to feel empty, when a single repair bill can erase years of savings. There was a time when home meant safety and security. Now, it often means constant stress. Behind every white picket fence is a family quietly running the numbers, hoping, sometimes desperately, that nothing else breaks this month. Number 13. Small business ownership and startup investment. The American middle class once fueled the nation's entrepreneurial engine, running local diners, repair shops, family-owned stores, and taking chances on new ideas. That spirit hasn't disappeared, but the path to ownership is rapidly closing. Launching a small business in today's economy typically requires between $30,000 and $60,000 upfront. At the same time, securing a loan has become incredibly difficult without nearly flawless credit. Small business loan interest rates now exceed 9%, and banks increasingly favor lending to large corporations that already have deep pockets. The pandemic delivered a devastating blow, wiping out more than 200,000 small businesses, many of which never reopened. Since then, rent, utilities, and wages have climbed by double digits, while customer spending has slowed. For middle-class entrepreneurs, starting a business now feels less like opportunity and more like a high-stakes gamble. Before a single product is sold, business licenses, taxes, and insurance alone can cost around $10,000 per year. The result is visible across the country. Main streets are lined with empty storefronts where family-run shops once stood. In their place are chain stores and massive delivery hubs owned by billion-dollar corporations. The middle class has been pushed away from ownership and into dependence, shifted from creators to consumers. Every "for lease" sign tells a personal story. A baker who couldn't keep up with rising rent, a barber who lost half his clientele, a mechanic buried under insurance costs. A country that once celebrated opportunity now puts a price tag on it. The middle class doesn't lack drive or ambition. What it lacks is the freedom to dream without taking on crushing debt. Number 14. Life insurance and long-term care. Life insurance was once the quiet safety net families relied on. A simple assurance that loved ones would be protected when you were no longer there to do it yourself. Today, that sense of security carries a cost the middle class increasingly can't manage. The average yearly premium for a basic life insurance policy now sits around $1,200, while more comprehensive coverage can range anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 depending on age and health. For households already balancing mortgages, medical expenses, and credit card debt, insurance often gets pushed into the "we'll deal with it later" category. Long-term care costs paint an even bleaker picture. A private room in a nursing home averages roughly $18,000 per year, while in-home health aides typically charge about $28 an hour, adding up to nearly $60,000 annually. Medicare covers little, if any, of these expenses, leaving families exposed. Middle-class seniors who spent decades working, saving, and playing by the rules are now facing an unbearable choice: sell their homes, drain their savings, or go without proper care. Dying with dignity has become something many simply can't afford. In a country that once took pride in financial security, aging itself has turned into a luxury. The middle class no longer fears not living enough years. Instead, it worries about living too many. Number 15. Saving for future generations. The American middle class was built on a powerful promise: that each generation would have more opportunities, more security, and a better life than the one before it. That promise is now quietly slipping away. In 2025, the personal savings rate for the average American family has fallen below 3.5%, the lowest level seen in decades. Most middle-class households have less than $1,000 set aside. When every dollar is consumed by basic survival, saving for the future stops feeling practical and starts feeling imaginary. The cost of living race is far ahead of income. Rent, healthcare, childcare, and taxes drain paychecks long before the month ends. Parents who once hoped to leave behind financial support now struggle just to offer stability. College savings accounts feel unreachable. Passing down a home feels unlikely. Many families are quietly tapping into retirement funds early, not to travel or enjoy life, but simply to stay afloat. That decision creates a hollow future, one their children will inherit without warning. In the 1980s, middle-class families routinely saved 10 to 12% of their income each year. Today, managing to save even 1% feels like a win. The generational wealth divide has never been more severe. At the same age, baby boomers controlled roughly half of the nation's wealth. Millennials hold closer to just 5%. The tragedy isn't a lack of concern for the future. It's that the system has made planning for one nearly impossible. The middle class was meant to be the bridge between struggle and success. Instead, that bridge is sinking, dragging the next generation down with it. America once told its people, "Work hard, and your children will have more." Now the message sounds colder and far less hopeful. Work harder, and maybe they'll get by.